My paper is a presentation of philosophical exploration of emotion. So it's not technical, it's more philosophical. It's trying to understand how the human emotion works. Because to build conscious AI, I think we need to understand how human consciousness works. So this is fairly philosophical. So the title is Emotion from P-bit, Computation Emotions Using the Platonic Computer. So why emotion from P-bit? This phrase is actually an expansion of another phrase, which is it from bit. It from bit is a phrase proposed by John Wheeler in 1990. And John Wheeler is a very famous physicist. He coined the term black hole in physics. He proposed all things physical are information theoretic in origin. Wheeler is making a proposition that the physical reality, i.e. it, should be modeled in terms of information. My extension is that I'm here asking, can emotion also be modeled in terms of information? So we here have it from bit. I'm asking whether it's possible emotion from bit. In science, we model the reality based on metaphors that are available to us. And those metaphors evolve throughout ages. For example, in mechanical time, and the advanced technology is machines. So at that time, we model the universe in terms of a machine, like clock-like machine. Yeah, so Newton's laws are basically a set of equations to describe how this clock-like machine works, i.e. the macro movement of the objects in space. When human society was electrified, we had a new concept, like electricity. So we used the new concept to model the micro-universe in terms of electrically charged particles. Nowadays, it's information age. And in information age, we have new metaphors, which we can try to understand the universe based on new concepts. In this age, the new concepts, tools available to us, including computer, information processing, big data, simulation, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. And all those metaphors inspire us to come up with new model of the reality, such as the computation universe hypothesis. Nowadays, more and more scholars, including physicists, biologists, philosophers, technology leaders, are speculating seriously if the universe is an output of computer. So it's a computational universe hypothesis. But so far, most discussions are only speculations. It's not yet a hypothesis. To develop a speculation into a hypothesis, I think we need to understand several questions. And those questions include, where is the computer? And what is this made of? And how is it built? What are its properties? And also who or what is the programmer? There are some progress in answering these questions. For example, Nick Bostrom is an Oxford University philosopher. He proposed an ancestor simulation argument. Yeah, he says if ancestor simulations are something an advanced civilization would end up creating, then most of the self-aware minds that ever come into existence are simulated ones. So Nick Bostrom is basically saying the computer which produced the universe is actually in the future. So our offsprings in the far, far future have advanced computers, and they simulate their ancestors. So we are their ancestors in their computer simulations. For the reason I'll explain later, I don't think the material computer which our offsprings have developed, no matter how advanced, will not be able to produce a physical reality. So a material computer, no matter how advanced it is, can only render a virtual reality. To render material reality, we need a different computer. And we need it now, instead of in the future. And therefore, I propose to look at another place where we can find this computer. And that place is the realm of forms proposed by Plato. According to Plato, physical existence is a shadow or poor imitation of the ideal realms of existence. Abstract entities exist in the realm of forms, which operate as a fundamental realities. Material objects in the physical reality resemble their perfect abstract forms to varying degrees. For example, in the realm of forms, there is an ideal dog form, an abstract dogness as a universal. Dogs in materiality of all shapes and sizes are shadows of this ideal dog form. Applying the same principle, it is postulated that everyday material computer made of silicon is only a shadow or poor imitation of the perfect abstract metaphysical computer that exists in the realm of forms. We call this abstract metaphysical computer platonic computer. It is true that we cannot access platonic computer by our normal senses. However, we have access to its shadow, the physical computer. By manipulating the physical computer, we can learn a great deal about the platonic computer. For example, by programming a physical computer and generating virtual reality, we can simulate how the platonic computer generates physical reality. The platonic computer and the physical computer both operate on the binary opposite states. However, there are fundamental differences between the makeup of the binary states in the platonic computer compared to that of the physical computer. In physical computer, the binary is on and off switch made of silicon material. In platonic computer, the binary switch is a metaphysical one, made of meta-consciousness, manifested meta-consciousness as on, and unmanifested meta-consciousness as off. With the switch made of binary states of meta-consciousness, we can construct an operating metaphysical computer. Although we cannot access the platonic computer by seeing or touching it, we have access to its shadow, the physical computer. So we can access its shadow. Needless to say, the shadow isn't the real thing. We can simulate a hurricane on the computer screen, but we won't get wet or blown away. The hurricane on the computer screen is only a poor imitation of the physical hurricane. Nevertheless, a physical computer can simulate the dynamic changes of the weather so that the weather forecast can be made with a reasonable level of accuracy. As a shadow of the platonic computer, physical computer can only output localized symbols like 1, 2, 3, 4. You can print out those symbols on the screen, but they are localized on the screen. Whereas the platonic computer outputs the non-local abstract concepts, such as oneness, two-ness, three-ness, four-ness. So those abstract numbers, they are not local, they are non-local, they are not in the space. Nevertheless, both physical computer and the platonic computer share the same program. It's a +1 program. So therefore, by manipulating physical computer produce symbols of numbers, we can deduce how the platonic computer produce meanings of numbers. As a shadow of platonic computer, physical computer can only render localized emojis. In comparison, the platonic computer renders emotions. The platonic computer operates on the platonic code made of consciousness, whereas the physical computer operates on the symbolic code. Nevertheless, both physical computer and the platonic computer share the same digital pattern in rendering those outputs. Therefore, by manipulating physical computer to render emojis, we can deduce how the platonic computer renders emotions. Basically, we can reduce the human emotion into a binary code made of platonic objects. I'm concluding now. We have a promise that there is an existence of an operating digital computer in the realm of forms. We call it the platonic computer. Our everyday mundane physical computer is a shadow or poor imitation of the platonic computer. The operation of the platonic computer can be simulated using a physical computer. The physical computer renders emojis. The platonic computer renders emotions. An emotional state of a conscious being can thus be defined by a unique platonic code. Thank you for your attention.